Hello. This has been something that someone said I had to do. But anyway, to talk about myself. So I had to find something to talk about. And my darling daughter suggested, Mommy, go pull a card. And that'll give you a topic. So the card I pulled that day was Unfinished Symphony. And basically, it talks about things that are unfinished and that you need to clean up in your life and to move forward. And I've been working at moving forward. But to move forward, sometimes you got to go all the way to the past to figure out where to start from or where these little hangups you get, like, I don't feel good about myself, or I don't feel worthy, and I don't feel this. So I could only go back to maybe like I was like 5 or 6. And my parents were together at the time. My mother, was a girl from the South. My dad was from New York. That's where I was born, New York. And my mother found out that my father was on drugs. She didn't know at first. And she had 2 kids at the time, my brother and I. And she decided this is not going to work. I have my kids I got to take care of. And so we lived in Brooklyn in the Williamsburg projects. At the time, projects were a place for working class people. So there was a lot of kids that I had friends, to play with. And there were, couples there with families. And when my mother and my father had gotten into a big fight, and my mother, I guess, I don't know, she changed the locks. I don't remember. I was only 5 or 6. And my dad came to the house and knocked on the door. My mother wouldn't let him in. Now, there's 2 stories that kind of blend together in my head because my sister's father eventually appeared. And I don't know if that's the same day. But anyway, where we lived on the 3rd floor, and we were near the hallway window, but they staggered them so that I guess no one could climb in. And the kitchen window was very small. So I guess my dad, I don't know, drugs or whatever, maybe he thought he was Spider-Man. He climbed up to the 3rd floor and squeezed into the window. And of course, there was another argument going on. But I remember standing, and we had a little hallway, and in that hallway was the washing machine. And I remember standing next to that washing machine. And my dad took my brother into the living room and he asked him, did he want to go with him? And my dad said no. My brother said no. And my brother walked out. And I remember standing there, waiting for my dad to ask me, did I want to go with him? Even though I knew I was going to say no. Because my dad because of the drugs, was a little absent. And I didn't want to go with him. So I knew that. But I still wanted to be asked. And he got up and he left. So I remember standing there going, well, wait, he didn't ask me. That little 5 or 6-year-old Antoinette standing there took that in as, so he doesn't want me. And you carry that with you for a long time. Well, you wasn't good enough to be asked. And, I was the second born. And my brother was very quiet, but very book smart. And he could spell his name, which I used to say, Tony is only 4 letters. And so I would always hear things about how smart your brother was. I remember one day before I went into school, because in New York, if your birthday is in January, you had to wait a year. And my mother was trying to make it so that I could go to school, but that wasn't going to happen. I had to wait a year. So we went to parochial school. And my mother, I remember, I was a kid who liked to play. I didn't like to be out, like having to learn all this stuff. And it was just my dad and her. My dad and my mother sitting there trying to make me count past 15, and I just wouldn't do it. I get to 15 and freeze, and whack, I got a hit across my hand. And so it was just frustrating, I guess, the 2 of them, and frustrating me also. But I digress. I will go on little roads and different places and paths sometimes to come back to the story. but I always got that feeling like always hearing about my brother being really smart. I remember there were twin sisters that taught first grade, and my brother had one twin and I had the other, and I would still hear about how my brother was so smart. So I always was I loved my brother. I would fight for my brother, even though I was the younger one. My father said, he said, I used to think your brother was going to be a punk because you'd hit somebody that bothered him and grab him and run. And I used to call him my boy. And like I had to take care of him. And so I would hear this, but it was like kind of a competition, but not, because I was always trying to make my mother know I could do it. I can do these things, but I wanted to do it my way. Like I wanted to go outside and play. And I liked being outside. And she wanted me to do the things what most parents want their kids to do to progress and do better than them and do all that stuff. And I was always fighting against it. So those thoughts in my head grew, I guess. And for the longest time, I just didn't feel like good enough or worthy enough. And I remember telling my dad in my 20s, because my parents broke up. But he cleaned up and he got himself together. And I was at his house, and I remember telling him about that story about me standing at that washing machine waiting for him. And he said, "You don't remember that." And I'm like, "So I'm telling you the story because I don't remember?" And he said, "Well, I thought at the time that a boy went with the man and the girl went with the woman." And I was like, "But that's not the point. You didn't ask me. And what I wanted was for you to ask me." And so those things we carry for so long, and makes you sometimes make bad choices on the people that you put in your life, because I'm always feeling like I have to do for others, and or can be a little not very trusting sometimes of like what somebody wants from me. But at this age that I am now, yes, I know I can't blame my parents. I have to work on me, which is what I have been doing, working to make myself um, feel good about me. And that's, I think, the point of a lot of things is to feel good about you, and that I am important, and that I am okay. And I'm here for a purpose in this life. I'm still looking for it, but I'll get there. So that is my one little story for today. I don't know what it'll do for anybody, but maybe it helped me clear up some stuff in my own head. I have to remind myself of these things over and over again to stay on that road. I have peace. Thank you.